The S-Class heroes versus the Akatsuki, the Hero Association's elites versus one of the most iconic villainous group in anime. Many people pair up the Akatsuki against literally every other anime group such as the Warlords, the Espada, and the Phantom Troop. So what would happen if the heroes decided to stop the Akatsuki, and who would come up on top? In this video, we will determine which group is superior to the other by having different 1v1 matchups from each group, and eventually we'll figure out how a battle royale in an open space would go. But before that, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell for more of these matchup videos. I want to say that I really appreciate all the support and I cannot thank you enough for it. But again, thank you. Naruto is one of the most recognized show in the planet. That's due to its crazy plot and its unbelievable calculated battles, famous for its unique well-written roster of villains. And within this roster, there exists a group called the Akatsuki that holds villains who are monstrously strong. Each individual holds different motives, desires, origins, and ways to fight. Even when it comes to scaling, they vary drastically from one to another. Hidan clearly states that his speed is the slowest in the Akatsuki. Deidara and Pain holds the best shown destructive capacity attacks compared to the other members, and the list goes on. Now when it comes to speed, there are two lines of scaling that the majority agrees on. One is that characters on the level of Kakashi are lightning timers, and that's mainly due to Guy stating that Kakashi once sliced lightning using the Raikiri, although this is still questionable due to the fact that Zetsu certainly implied that Sasuke using Kirin that indeed moves at the speed of lightning is such a huge feat at that point of the series. Not to mention the fact that Kakashi slicing lightning doesn't necessarily mean he is as fast as lightning. We have absolutely no idea how Kakashi did it. We can't possibly know at what speed, angle, or position he sliced it. It was also stated later in one of the data books that the Raikage also moves at that speed, and the latter is considered to be one of the fastest characters in the series. Now the second line of scaling speed is that the majority, if not all the members of the Akatsuki are or should be on the light speed level. This comes from multiple data book statements such as Haku moving between the mirrors at the speed of light. Darui's circus can control light rays emitted from joined hands. Mifune's sword slash that moves at the speed of light, and the big one that a lot of people reference is AMB's lariat that moves almost at the speed of light. This one was debunked multiple times due to the wrong translations and the context of what the kanji really means. But more importantly, all these statements highly contradicts Madara's light Fang that moves at the speed of light. It took 6 paths Sage mode Naruto with 2 separate forms of precog to narrowly dodge it, which further attests to its speed. However, we'll still be generous and say that the majority of the Akatsuki members can move and react at the speed of light. Now moving on to attack potency. The two major attacks that scalers tend to use are the C0 explosion and Pain's Shibaku Tensei. The C0 explosion was calced to be capable of destroying a small country. The Shibaku Tensei calcs varies from large island to continental level. However, it's important to note that not all of the Akatsuki scales to this. Pain was having difficulties performing this feat, and Deidara literally killed himself for the attack to work. It's not like these two characters can exert that much energy casually. It's required to be a last resort attack. Now because of the lack of general showing, as for characters like Hidan, Kakuzu, Takasasuke, Konan, Sasori, Orochimaru, and Sek Itachi, they should be on the ranges of city to mountain level of attack potency, since they can tackle with bijus who can destroy a mountain. Sasori stated he took down a whole country using his 100 puppets jutsu, however, that certainly doesn't translate to his attack potency. As for Kisame, his attack potency can change depends on how much chakra his Samehada absorbs. Not to forget that this story certainly implies that Obito should scale higher than all of the members including Pain and Kisame in terms of attack potency and speed, and when it comes to their durability, it should definitely scale to their attack potency. One thing that should be noted is that the Akatsuki are elite ninja who holds abilities and techniques that could be used for quickly defeating their opponents without the need of a full blown out fight. Clear examples of this are Pain Absorption Soul Technique, Itachi's Tsukuyomi, Sasori's Poison, and Deidara's Microscopic Explosion. In most cases, battle IQ in Naruto fights matter. It sure includes well thought strategies and planning. Even though Zabuza was clearly superior to Naruto and Sasuke, they still managed to outsmart him. A team up that includes all the Akatsuki together with their variety of abilities would be extremely lethal and difficult to deal with, a task we are yet to see if the S-Class heroes can manage to do. There's no doubt that the S-Class heroes are the strongest heroes in the association. The author goes to explain that the S-Class is an anomaly, composed of characters who does not think like the average people, capable of dealing with multiple threats such as demons or dragons. These certain individuals vary drastically in terms of skills and abilities. Some are brawlers who relies on nothing but brute physical strength, and others who use techniques such as martial arts and ninja/samurai skills. Now to start off with scaling, we begin with attack potency or destructive capacity. Statistically speaking, the high tier AP characters, excluding Blast obviously, should be Tatsumaki and 10 seconds Lightning Core Genos, with both of them scaling to multi-continental levels of AP, due to Tatsumaki tanking and stopping Psycho's blast casually, and Genos deflecting the same blast just right after. Next in line should be Pumped Up Metal Bat. His AP generally varies from country level to continental and possibly could be higher, and that's mainly due to damaging Sage Centipede's exoskeleton in his combination with Garu. Now Silva, Fang, Flashy Flash and Sunblade Atomic Samurai's AP depends immensely on how you would scale both Garu and Platinum S. If you use the Platinum S multiplier, you would easily put him at least a small country level, and since Atomic Samurai was able to cut off Golden S's arm, and both Flashy Flash and Bang were shown being capable of trading hits with both Garu and Platinum S, they should be on that level of AP. But if you disagree with the Platinum/Golden S multiplier, they should comfortably vary from Mountain to Island levels of AP. Next in line should be Darkshine. Although the story clearly indicates that he should be scaled higher, especially due to his durability, the most fitting level that should be given in this particular instance should be Mountain to Island levels of AP. Drive Knight on the other hand should scale similar or right below this, since he took out a dragon level monster Neon that is considered to be a threat to multiple cities, and the rest of the S-Class heroes being Tank Top Master, Child Emperor and Zombie Man should range from multi-city blocks to city levels of AP. Blast on the other hand seems like he's from an entirely different anime, and if you want to massively lowball him, he should be planetary, but could possibly be in the solar system levels of AP, since he was able to contain the Series Punch Square energy for a brief amount of time. Now that we've got AP out of the way, let's tackle speed. Similar to the Akatsuki, speed in One Punch Man generally has two lines of scaling. The first one depends on Calcs, and it suggests that most characters in the S-Class heroes should be massively hypersonic plus. The second one is that most of them can move and react at the speed of light. This is mostly due to Genos way early on the series being capable of reacting to lasers. The same chapters confirms the lasers do indeed hold the properties of light. Garu, while being extremely nerfed later in the story, despite Genos having an additional upgrade, was still able to react to him and match his speed. Same Garu, while healthy, was getting tagged multiple times by Tank Top Master prior to Garu using his technique. Awakened Cockroach, a demon level monster, stated he can also react at the speed of light. Atomic Samurai was also seen reacting to G5's lasers easily. Darkshine and Silva Fang were being relative to a much stronger and faster Garu. And not to forget Flashy Flash, who showcased faster than light plus levels of speed against Platinum S and Garu, and the list goes on. The only problems with this is that G4's lasers can bend and destroy objects upon contact. But similar to the Akatsuki's case, despite having problems with these feats, we'll still be giving the S-Class heroes light speed movement and reaction time, with the exception of Lightning Core Genos, Tatsumaki, Bang and Flashy Flash being faster than light plus characters, and Blast is without a doubt massively faster than light. Now, as you all know, the S-Class heroes later in the Monster Association arc learned how to team up. With this, they would be a very formidable force against a threat on the level of the Monster Association. But would they be able to defeat the Akatsuki? Now, as you all noticed, I've deliberately excluded multiple characters from the S-Class heroes to make this even, as King would be too overpowered against the Akatsuki, and we still don't know anything about Metal Knight or Watchdog Man. I just didn't know who would be a good matchup for Puri Puri Prisoner and Bug God. With all of this being said, the matchups I have put together are as follows: Blast vs Obito, Tatsumaki vs Pain, Itachi vs Flash, Atomic Samurai vs Takasasuke, Orochimaru vs Drive Knight, Sasori vs Child Emperor, Zombie Man vs Hidan, Kakuzu vs Silva Fang, Genos vs Deidara, Conan vs Darkshine, Metal Bat vs Kisame, and last but not least, Zetsu vs Tank Top Master. But first, let's address the Akatsuki's huge advantage, which is Genjutsu. With the exception of maybe Blast, we have never seen any member of the S-Class heroes being immune to illusions, although in Naruto, Genjutsu is rarely employed. However, at least at the basics level, it's still an ability that every ninja knows how to use or counter. The more powerful a Genjutsu, the more damage damage it is likely to cause. It would definitely affect the courses of the battle drastically. But for the sake of this matchup, let's say most members would not resort to it similar to what they do in the show, with the sole exception of obviously Itachi. With this being said, let's start with the matchups one by one. The first one being Obito versus Blast. It's blatantly obvious that Blast is just significantly better than Obito when it comes to stats. Some people like to put Obito at massively faster than light, which begs the question of why and how. Other than the data book that clearly has multiple issues, massively faster than light is just an overestimation of masked Obito's speed. The only way to have a chance against Blast is to use his Kamui carefully with the employment of his Genjutsu. Granted, Blast could be immune to illusions since he can break out of God's manipulations. Not to forget that Obito, when using Kamui, needs to be tangible for any sort of attack to land. Blast has enough speed to inflict considerable damage right at that instant. Let's say Obito managed to get Blast inside his Kamui dimension. He could just escape using his teleporting portals. With all of this being said, I cannot see how Obito can manage to get the dub. So for this matchup, Blast wins. Now as for Tatsumaki versus Pain, with both maybe relative in speed, which I highly doubt, Pain's greatest attack would be his Shibaku Tensei. Even if we massively highball it to being continental, Tatsumaki not only tanked a beam that sliced a huge portion of Earth, she also stopped it while being heavily weakened and holding back. Her barriers are more than capable of tanking any sort of attack Pain throws at her. Her psychic and telekinesis powers, if you really think about it, are just a significantly better version of the Diva Pat's abilities. With Tatsumaki having the knowledge of the Akatsuki being a great threat, nothing really stops her from twisting all Nagato's pains into nothingness. Pain absorbing chakra or soul, summoning animals, and his shared vision wouldn't mean anything if he can't bypass her barriers. So for this matchup, Tatsumaki wins. Now as for Itachi versus Flash, Flashy Flash should be many times faster than Itachi. Remember that sick Itachi barely reacted to Kirin that moves at the speed of lightning. But disregarding that and giving Itachi faster than light movements, he would still be much slower than Flashy Flash. However, this could go either way. Flashy Flash in character usually attacks before anything is done. Take his attempt against Saitama, who he attacked before confirming he's an actual human. If Itachi uses Tsukuyomi upon first contact, then Itachi would win. There's no argument made for Flashy Flash being resistant to such a high level Genjutsu. And even though we agreed we won't be using Genjutsu regarding these matchups, Itachi's Genjutsu is what makes him a formidable opponent. Taking away that from him is like taking away Flashy Flash's speed. On the other hand, if Flashy Flash attacks before Itachi uses his Genjutsu or guards with his Susanoo, then Flashy Flash would definitely win. So this matchup could go either way, depends on who uses his specialty first. Now for Takasasuke versus Sunblade Atomic Samurai, Kamikaze in that state should be in the faster than light plus range, while Sasuke at that point is generously faster than light. This right here can go the same way Flashy Flash and Itachi went. Sasuke can win instantly by using a Genjutsu, and Kamikaze can win via Atomic/Blitz. It could also go either way. Now as for Orochimaru versus Drive Knight, due to the lack of showings of Drive Knight's attack potency and durability, as even though he took out a dragon level monster with obviously prep time, Orochimaru should scale relatively if not above Drive Knight. There is a panel that states that Orochimaru can destroy a small country. Drive Knight surely has many tricks in his arsenal, but it's nothing Orochimaru hasn't dealt with before. Saying they are relative in speed, Orochimaru just has so many tricks in his arsenal, and his high battle IQ should allow him to get the dub against Drive Knight. Drive Knight would also need a considerable amount of prep time to even engage with Orochimaru. So for this matchup, Orochimaru should win. Next we have Sasori versus Child Emperor. Child Emperor in this case is used based on his retcon version. Difference being his Millennium Nova that was calculated to be a large island level attack is removed and cannot be used. And based on that, there's absolutely no AP or DC feat that puts Isamu on the level of Sasori. Sasori could be scaled even higher than what I initially said in the Akatsuki part, being stronger than the third Kazekage, who is hailed as the strongest of all time. Brave Giant would be overwhelmed by the 100 Puppets Jutsu, same way he was overwhelmed by the monsters Phoenix Man summoned. Not to forget the instant win con for Sasori, which would be poisoned before Isamu even uses his Brave Giant. So for this matchup, I give it to Sasori. Now as for Zombie Man and Hidan, Zombie Man literally needed a character who can spam beams infinitely to keep him in check. Both characters are immortal, but Hidan cannot regenerate. Zombie Man is literally the counter for Hidan's blood ritual. No matter how much it takes, Hidan Hidan would just keep getting damaged without regenerating, and Zombie Man wouldn't stop until Hidan is in pieces. So Zombie Man obviously wins this. Kakuzu versus Silva Fang would be a very interesting matchup. Kakuzu would learn the hard way that Silva Fang shouldn't be engaged in close range combat. He can deflect his attacks and return them with double the force. Silva Fang in his awakened breath would be fast enough to force Kakuzu for a close range confrontation. Even with Kakuzu's large bag of abilities and jutsus and his assumably mountain level of durability, I don't see how he would win against Bang. Bang has the speed to move and react, and has the hard counter, which is his water stream rock smashing fist. Combining that with his AP, this would surely be a Silva Fang W. Now as for Deidara versus Genos, both hold explosive powers, but Genos obviously is much superior to even the likes of the C0 explosion. He's just significantly more powerful and faster than Deidara. The only win con for Deidara is to use his microscopic explosions that would disintegrate Genos' body, and that's granted Genos wouldn't be able to scan them in the first place. Genos in character would attack Deidara from the get-go, and 10 seconds mode Genos DC would be an overkill for Deidara. Deidara's C0 explosion takes too much to charge, and even if he managed to unleash it, Genos has the speed and the destructive capacity to overcome it. So for this matchup, Genos wins. Next is Konan versus Darkshine. I literally have no idea why I chose this matchup. Her AP without prep time is unknown, and she is considered to be one of the weakest in the Akatsuki, and I have no idea how she would be able to hurt Darkshine without her 600 billion bombs. If it's prep time, Darkshine would lose. Without prep time, I assume he would win. As for Kisame versus Metal Bat, if Kisame fights Metal Bat before being pumped up, he could just use his water prison jutsu to paralyze him or completely drown him. Metal Bat could try to swim to get free from the prison, but Kisame would just follow him the same way he did against Killer Bee. However, if Kisame doesn't use the water prison and keep barraging him with hits, not knocking him out, Metal Bat in his pumped up state would eventually overpower Kisame. However, the rate of which Metal Bat gets pumped up depends largely on the scale of the attack he tanks at that time. So in case number 1, Kisame would win, and case number 2, Metal Bat would be the victor. Zetsu is literally the weakest member in the Akatsuki. Before being amped by Hashirama's cells from Yamato, you could comfortably say that Tank Top Master would destroy White Zetsu casually. However, for Black Zetsu, who was able to hold off the Kage's guards with Mei, it's really hard to tell, but I'll still give it to Tank Top Master via throwing him in the sky. Now, since we got all these matchups out of the way, how would a battle royale go? To be frankly honest, Blast alone can more than likely teleport each one of them in space. He's just massively stronger and faster than any member of the Akatsuki. He would just be too overpowered for them to handle. Add that with Tatsumaki, Genos, Flashy Flash alongside with Pumped Up Metal Bat, this would definitely be a massacre. Obito can more than likely catch all of them off guard with his Kamui, but since Blast is right there, nothing really can be done but use Genjutsu against all of them. Tatsumaki can also protect all the heroes with her barrier if they needed time to recover. This is really not close. The top tier of the S-class heroes are just too strong. However, I would admit that the Akatsuki's strategy would be much better than what the S-class heroes can come up with. Combining their hacks and abilities, they should have a chance against the S-class heroes if you are excluding Blast from the equation. I don't see them coming up with a plan to get rid of Blast. As Pain once said to Tsunade, all is meaningless before overwhelming power. Clear examples of this are Pain's absorption souls. Clear examples of this are Pain's absorption. Clear examples of this are Pain absorptions. Fuck's sake. Clear examples of this are Pain absorption soul technique. Clear examples of this are Pain. Clear examples of this are Pain absorption soul techniques. The author goes to explain that the S-class is an anomaly. The author goes to explain that the S-class is an anomaly. Mifune's sword slash that moves at the speed of light, and the big one that a lot of people reference is A and B lariat that moves almost at